You're gonna want your phone because it's fun to watch it, so you can read the comments.
Okay.
Oh, we have 20 minutes to do it, so. Yeah.
Well, you guys are live right now.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. We're centered.
I don't know. It looks pretty good. It looks pretty good.
All right, cool. All right, hey guys, welcome to Live with Lincoln Select. Thank you for joining us this morning. Today I have my special guest, Stephanie Matejka, joining us with Advantage Insurance Agency. I didn't want to mess up her last name because it's a lot of weird letters, but
It's mostly
welcome.
just the J.
Yeah.
Silent J will get you.
Welcome, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to kind of go over some specifics with homeowners insurance, some things that you may or may not know. A lot of this information will be really helpful for not only just realtors, but just homeowners in general, because I know for me, there's a lot of things, questions and things like that I didn't even think of when I was kind of researching this. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Wonderful.
All right. So first of all, why is homeowners insurance important?
Homeowners insurance protects people's investments in their home, typically, especially with first-time home buyers and young families. Their home's their largest asset, and so homeowners insurance protects that against sudden and accidental things, weather, which here in Nebraska we're having a lot of, typically we have a lot of hail and storms. It also protects people against things like theft and fire. In the event something happens at their home. It also protects them in the event they have a guest over at their home and they get hurt, and there's, the homeowner sued, and protects them against that liability also.
Okay. Yeah, someone getting hurt at your house when they're over there, I mean, that's something that we don't really think of.
Nope.
But, we had someone trip at our house one time and cut their foot, and I was just thinking, oh gosh, well, we have insurance in place, so
Yep.
if something major were to happen, we're good.
Yep.
So, like dog bites and things like that?
Dog bites, most carriers cover most types of dogs. There are exceptions to that. There are carriers that don't take certain breeds of dogs, which I know a lot of people have problems with that, and I did too, but statistically speaking, smaller dogs are more likely to bite. Larger dogs are less likely to bite, but more likely to create a great amount of damage. And so if you get nipped by a Chihuahua, you might need a few stitches. If you are, bit by a Great Dane, or your child, then you might be looking at something different. And so there are breed restrictions with most carriers. Most carriers restrict dogs that have prior bite histories. And
Oh, okay.
That's a question that we always ask new clients to make sure that we're getting, the best fit for their family.
Okay. Are there certain breeds that are not favorable for insurance, or
The most
like the large breeds maybe?
large breeds and the most likely to be excluded are, of course, pit bulls, German shepherds, Doberman pinschers, some types of mastiffs, but not always and not all carriers. So that's why that's really good for information for your insurance agent to know, so they can make sure that they're finding the best fit for you.
Okay, okay. What are some other things that could affect your insurance premium?
So the major drivers when it comes to insurance premium are where you live, so that impacts how far you are from a fire department and hospitals.
Okay.
Fire department's the big one. The age
I
of
never
your
thought of that.
Yeah. So Lincoln, because Lincoln invested a bunch in infrastructure for fire departments, there's a scale of 1 to 10. It's called an ISO rating, And Lincoln used to be mostly 3s, and because of the additional fire departments, most of the homes in Lincoln are now ISO 2s, which means that we get better rates in Lincoln than the communities that don't have as dense population of fire departments, which is really neat.
I did not know that.
That happened about 1.5 years ago.
Oh.
So if you live in the middle of the
Awesome.
country, 10 miles from any city or fire department, then
Hi, Joanna. Tanya. Hey, Mike. Sorry, just saying hi.
but if you live in the middle of nowhere, if you will, far from a fire department or hospital, maybe on a dirt road, you might be an ISO 10, which does impact your rates because it takes longer for people to get to you if they need to help you if you have a fire or medical event.
Okay, that makes sense.
So
what
other things that might impact
Yeah,
rate, the age
yeah.
of your roof.
okay.
That's a huge rate driver in Nebraska because of hail. 90% of insurance claims in Nebraska are hail related on your roof.
That makes sense.
So the age of the roof, how old your electrical and plumbing are would impact your rate.
Okay.
And then some rates can be impacted if you have a security system, but frankly in Nebraska we have pretty low crime rates. So having a security system doesn't impact you the way it would, say, if you lived in New York or Chicago.
Okay, that's good because I had heard that security system might affect your premium, but I wasn't really quite
It's
sure
not,
on
it's
that
not as big
too
as
much.
you might like it to be.
Okay, we don't have one yet, but how about trampolines, swimming pools, things like that?
Certain carriers won't take swimming pools or trampolines. It'll depend on if you have a locking fence, how many neighbors you have, things like that. Certain carriers just don't want them at all. Certain carriers don't seem to mind. So that's another great piece of information to make sure that your insurance agent has to make sure that they're getting the best policy for you and your family.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons why I encourage people to shop around and especially look with an independent agent, because independent agents have several companies they can look at instead of just one.
So that's your situation, is you have different companies, so
Yep.
you can kind of tailor it to
Yep.
each individual's
Yep.
needs.
Because each company fundamentally has like a little piece of the pie that they like. It's their niche in the market. And so I have lots of niches, so I can really help a family. And then if something changes in their life, like they buy a house with a different set of circumstances, or let's say they have a young driver turn 16, or maybe something not so great happens in their life, like a DUI or a claim on their home, they might switch carriers to find a better fit for them, but they can still keep their agent, which is really nice.
Oh, that's really great. It's
Yeah.
nice having that one person that you can go to for your insurance needs.
Yeah.
And you're not just always calling and,
Yep.
a
A 1-800
number.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Real
I know.
people. I appreciate it.
Yep, I agree. Any other factors that would affect premium?
That's pretty much, there's also people fundamentally have what's considered an insurance score, so it takes into account how long they've had insurance, their prior claim history, their credit, and sometimes their driving record, and they mix it all together and make an insurance score, and that impacts rates. And so those can impact people's rates on both their home and their auto insurance. And
Okay.
so, but that one's kind of a black box that
Gotcha. So, what should I look for in homeowners insurance?
Homeowners insurance, if it's for your own personal home, I think the most important things are to make sure that you have replacement cost on your home and the contents, replacement cost on your roof, make sure that you have liability coverage, building code coverages, which are not automatically included, that fix things. Building codes in our city and county change over time. So 10 years ago, 12 years ago, you weren't required to put ice dam shields on your home when you replaced your roof. Now you are. Well, if you don't have that coverage and you need a new roof, you have to put those ice dam shields on, but if you don't have the coverage and it's an insurance claim, you have to pay for it. Your insurance company's not going to.
Okay.
Or if you need to update your breaker box because you had a fire in the kitchen,
Yeah.
and you don't have the building code coverages, then you're going to pay that $3,000 to put a new breaker box in your house. And if you have the coverage, then that's included in your claim and you don't have to worry about it. So that's a really important coverage. Another coverage is water sewer backup.
Yeah,
'Cause
I was
that's-
going to ask about that. Like
that's-
sump pump failures,
Yep.
things like that.
That's not automatically included in any policy, and I
Yeah.
can tell you what, it might not cover the entire claim, but at least you won't have to clean raw sewage up out of your own home.
Yeah, that does not sound
So,
like fun.
Yep. Yep. So those are the coverages I think are most important, and of course a good liability limit for your homeowner's insurance.
Okay, great. Let's see here. What are some personal items that a personal policy would cover?
So all your stuff, you always want to make sure that big ticket items are scheduled. For instance, jewelry. So your wedding ring, make sure that's either scheduled or on a separate policy. Some people have expensive bicycles or computer business equipment if they might work from home a little bit, and those are things that would be covered to some point on a homeowner's policy, but you want to make sure that those are scheduled so that you get the full replacement cost on them, because there are limits for jewelry or fine items, computers on policies where they kind of max it out. So you can't come back and say, my home burned down and I had, $80,000 in jewelry in my jewelry box.
Right.
So.
Right. And then like antiques and fine art, things like that. So it's important to let your insurance carrier know ahead of time, kind of like a list, like an inventory maybe of what they have.
Some inventories, the big items, I always encourage people to take their phones, everybody has one, and walk around their home, and doesn't have to be picked up, but open drawers, open closets, because if you have a catastrophic fire or loss at your home, you're not going to remember everything. And it's not so much to prove that you have it, although that helps, but also to help you remember.
Right.
Because when you're under stress of a claim, it's hard to remember all the details. And then once you put it on your phone, then it's, upload it to the cloud, send it to your mom, email it to yourself where you can access it later. And then you have that information in the event there's a claim.
Okay. How often should someone update their inventory of what
I try to say,
have?
once a year in the spring when you change your fire detector batteries.
Okay. That's a good rule of thumb. All right.
Sometimes that's when people are cleaning up their houses anyway. You might feel a little more comfortable making
This
video.
is spring cleaning. I know that when we purchased our house 5 years ago, we got homeowners insurance renewed, and we had to get my ring reappraised, and because it had gone up in value since we purchased it, years back. So that's pretty important too, to get your jewelry maybe reappraised.
Well, some it depends on how it works, but some carriers you can schedule it to your homeowner's insurance. I actually don't advise that, because what if you lose your ring on vacation and you have a hail claim? You're gonna have 2 claims on your homeowner's insurance in 1 year.
Yeah,
right?
2 major dings.
So there's actually a couple of companies where you can schedule those on separate policies.
Okay.
Where you can get replacement cost of the ring, you pick the jeweler, there's no deductible, and it's repair or replacement. It's usually the same price too.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never even would have thought of that.
Yeah. And so then if something happens with your ring, no big deal. It has no impact on your homeowner's insurance.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Here's one that I hear a lot. Will filing a claim raise your premium?
Filing a claim can raise your premium. And so I encourage all my clients to call and talk to me before they file a claim. I will file a claim for anybody if they want me to. No questions asked. I'm going to ask them a couple of questions.
Right.
But let's say you had, your dishwasher overflowed. You have a $1,500 deductible. I want to make sure that your damages exceed $1,500, because you don't want to lose your claim-free discount and not have it be financially advantageous to you and your family. So just like with a car, if somebody has a scratch on the side of their car and they have a $1,000 deductible, we're going to encourage them to get a bid from a local repair shop before we file a claim, because we want to make sure it's over their deductible, because if not, it's going to end up costing them money in the long run, and that's not what we're here for.
Right, yeah.
And that's the other really great thing about having an agent that you can really talk to and communicate with, is because some agencies, especially if you call a 1-800 number and ask about a claim, they're just going to file it for you. I had this really nice lady that had 4 0-paid claims on her home. So she'd never gotten anything out of it. She was being non-renewed because of her claim frequency. And granted, she'd gotten $0 because she called and asked questions.
Really?
Because they automatically file claims, and that's why it's really important to have an agent that you trust and can communicate with.
Wow, that's crazy. Yes. Well, another good reason to have someone, a person, an actual person that you can go to.
People. Yep.
So, let's see. Tell me a little bit about market value versus rebuild costs.
Okay, so this is a big one, especially for first-time home buyers. There are 3 values when it comes to your house. There's going to be the market value. If you're buying a new home, that's the market value of your home. It's what it's worth today in today's market. Then there's what the county assessor thinks it's worth. That's what we're taxed on. We always hope that's the lowest amount. Typically it is. And then there's the rebuilding cost, which is what it's gonna cost to rebuild your home with like materials today. My house, the difference between the market value of my home and my rebuilding cost is about $90,000 because my home was built in 1916. I have wood floors and wood trim, and so it would cost significantly more than I could sell my house for to rebuild it with those materials. And so that's why it's really important to have a rebuilding cost contract, because you want to get your house back
Right.
if something happens.
Right.
Not just part of your house.
You want it restored to the way it was before.
Yep. And there are
Okay.
certain things, like in older homes, you're not going to get lath
Right.
and plaster back. I don't think you want it.
No.
But,
you don't want that.
but you do want something like kind and quality back in your home, you know, if you have to rebuild. And so that's why rebuilding cost contracts are really important.
Okay. Good info there. What would be a good, reasonable deductible, in your opinion?
Well, what you can afford is a reasonable deductible. Most deductibles are minimum right now in the market are $1,000. $1,500 is pretty traditional for a minimum deductible. Some companies do percentage deductibles, and I avoid those because each year carriers will evaluate the replacement cost on your home. And so if you have a 1% deductible, that means if they're reevaluating it every year, that means your deductible is changing all the time. So you never really know what your deductible is.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you do know what it is, but it's not like you can remember, oh, I have a $1,000 deductible, I have a $1,500 deductible. I usually say have your deductible as high as you can comfortably afford if something were to happen, because the higher the deductible, the lower the premium is, but you also don't want to get yourself into a financial issue if you do have a claim.
Right.
And another
Right.
caveat is there are some carriers that if you have a claim, let's say we have a hailstorm come through, 2 of your cars get hail damage and your house, there are some carriers where you'll pay 1 deductible instead of paying 3.
Okay, that's
Or-
nice, because, the storm of 2016,
Mhm.
that was
That-
pretty common for
Yep.
people to
Yep.
have.
And so there are
Car
some
damage.
carriers that offer that and some that don't. Also, let's say you have a fire and both your cars are parked in your garage, you'd be paying 3
Yeah.
deductibles. And there's some carriers, like I said, there are a handful in the market where you just pay 1.
That's really nice, something that most people probably wouldn't think about.
Yep.
Yeah. So what kind of damage would not be covered by homeowners insurance?
Well, there's the building code and sump pump coverages that they aren't endorsed on your policy, and then there are claims that are never covered. Flooding, which is a terrible reality right now in our state because there are people that are not in flood areas
Yeah.
that their homes are being flooded where there have never been floods as long as people can remember, that don't have flood insurance, and there's no coverage there, and so it's really a terrible thing.
It's so sad.
Also, earth movement, so your foundation's failing, or you get seepage in through your foundation, not through your sewer, but through your foundation. Those things are never covered by any carrier.
Right.
So
Right.
those are, I always try to tell people, especially if they're frustrated because they have a flood and there's no coverage under their homeowners, that if all of those things were covered, homeowners insurance would be $10,000 to $12,000 a year
That would make
if they
sense.
covered things like water and earth movement.
Okay.
So you can buy separate flood and earthquake policies, meeting some stipulations. For some people, that's a good idea. For some people, it's not. Just kind of depends on your situation.
Gotcha. So what about like a fast leak versus a slow leak in a house? Like say you have a burst pipe, or say you have a
Burst
pipe,
pipes are traditionally covered on a
Okay.
standard homeowner's policy.
like a pipe behind the wall that's been slowly leaking for weeks.
Typically, you want sudden and accidental. Some carriers will find coverage for it, and it's not going to pay to repair the pipe because that's considered maintenance. Like if your roof is leaking because it's old, it's
Yeah.
considered maintenance.
Yeah.
Although in Nebraska, the adjusters can usually find wind and hail damage on a roof if it's old enough because it's Nebraska.
Pretty common.
Right. But typically, maintenance things on homes aren't covered. And so, just like your car, you're not going to file a claim because your tires are old,
Right. Yeah.
Or your paint jobs, the sun's gotten to it. So just kind of think about it like that. Think sudden and accidental. Slow leaks, like I said, sometimes they can find coverage, not always.
Okay. Well, I think our time is about up, but I just wanted to say thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
If you want to tell everyone your contact information, how they can get a hold of
Sure.
you, if you guys are looking to get quotes on your homeowner's insurance or want to compare your policy to what Stephanie could do, I'm sure you'd be happy to help compare.
I'm always happy to help. You can reach me at Advantage Insurance, phone number 402-484-5454. You can find us on Facebook, send a message, I'll get right back to you. My email is Stephanie, STEPHANIE, at AdvantageInsAgents.com. I'll put it down in the comments.
Awesome. Well,
Right.
thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks, guys, for tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of the day.